everyone, I'm Katie, and today I'm going to be talking to you about making and writing in a journal. A journal is basically any writing that we do about our own lives and our thoughts and feelings within that. And journals are a great way to express ourselves, which feels really positive. And when we are experiencing challenging times or feelings, it's also a really good way to feel better and get a new perspective on what we're going through. In addition, writing a journal is also a really good way to record what's happening in our lives and the world around us. So we all know that this pandemic and the stay-at-home orders have created really challenging and uncertain situations for a lot of us. But these circumstances aren't going to last forever. We are going to get through this and things will settle back into a routine that feels more normal. But we can take this as an opportunity to see this as our unique time in history and write down all the things that we're thinking and feeling in this situation. Someday we may even want to look back at how we were experiencing challenges and overcoming them. And maybe even someday we'll want to show future generations what we wrote about what we were going through right now. So with that said, I hope you feel inspired to create a journal with me today. There's a few ways that we can do this. If you have any kind of notebook at home, that will do just fine. And maybe you want to just decorate the cover. But if you don't have a notebook already at home, don't worry about it. You can find any type of plain paper. It could be lined, printer paper, construction paper, whatever you have. Maybe grab a stack of 10 of them is maybe a good place to start. And the only thing we're going to do is fold it down the middle. So I kind of held it the long ways and I'm folding it in half. Trying to be as neat as I can, but don't worry about getting it perfect. All right, and then once you have it folded, we want to keep it together. So I'm going to take a stapler and just staple close to the crease, maybe 3 or 4 times. If it's a little thick like my paper is, it might take an extra. Or if you don't have a stapler, what you could do is you could also punch some holes in it and put some thread or string through and tie it up. But this will do for now, so this will be my journal. And what I'm going to do is just decorate the cover a little bit. I'm going to write Katie's journal on it so that everybody knows what it is. And maybe just draw like a sun. And I'm drawing some clouds on mine because those make me feel really good. But you can decorate your journal any way you want. Markers, crayons, stickers, paint, whatever you have. So here's my journal for now. And before we get into kind of what you can put in your journal, just remember that a journal can be anything you want it to be. So it can be, paragraphs of writing, but it can also just be some bullet points of some thoughts or feelings. There could be doodles and pictures that you draw. It could be one word that you feel like just summarizes your day. So don't feel intimidated. Just start today. So when we open our journal, probably the first thing that we want to do is put the date on the top of the page that we're going to write. And that just helps so that if you ever want to look back, you know when you were writing this. And again, like we said, there's no right or wrong way to make a journal, but I've written out some some questions that might help you get started. And it has to do with just thinking about your life and what's going on. So the first one is just what happened today. You might just put a couple of bullets of some things that happened in your life. Sometimes though, there's lots that happens in the day that we don't really feel like writing down. In which case, you might want to skip to just what do you want to remember about today? Was there something that surprised you or felt exciting, that was disappointing, or that you really enjoyed doing? All of those can end up being really memorable. Or just writing down something that happened in your community or on the news that day that you think is of interest. The third question is, how did you feel today? Because this is your journal. It's about you. So you want to record some feelings about what's going on for you. And just remember, it's totally normal to have a lot of different feelings about your day or even a single thing that happened. And every feeling is normal to experience. And then finally, to finish on, a really positive note is, what do you feel grateful for or hopeful about? Because that can really help us get into a great place and remember what's good right now as well as what we want for the future. So again, your journal can be anything you want it to be, but here are some awesome starting places. So, as I leave you to start your own journaling practice, I really want you to remember that even though this time that we're going through right now with the pandemic is incredibly hard, there are people who have lived before us that have also gone through really hard, challenging times and have overcome them, just like we're going to do. And this journal can just be a way of recording all of the things that are happening for us in this time. So one of the most famous journals of all time is The Diary of Anne Frank, which is now a book that's been published and translated into languages for people to read all over the world. So who is Anne Frank? She is a 13-year-old girl who was Jewish, and her family went into hiding in Amsterdam during World War II, during Nazi occupation of Europe. And those were incredibly challenging circumstances. And even though her and her family were living in a really confined attic space indoors for 2 years, Anne wrote about hopefulness that she felt for herself and for the world. And so to inspire your journaling, I wanted to leave you with a quote from The Diary of Anne Frank. Everyone has inside of him a piece of good news. The good news is that you don't know how great you can be, how much you can love, what you can accomplish, and what your potential is. Happy journaling.